Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. In this video, I want to share with you a little overview about what types of brushes and tools to use with each type of base or foundation product. For me, upon many occasions, I've brought home a foundation that I'm so in love with, and then by the time I put it on myself at home, doesn't quite look the same, doesn't look so flawless anymore. Well, sometimes it has to do with the product itself, but often it's to do with the right tools that you're using to apply onto the skin can really make or break the experience that you have with your base product, you know? So what I've done today is pulled out different types of foundations running from liquid to creams to compact powders, and then also some of my favorite tools that I like to use with each category of product, because certainly not all tools work the same with each consistency or each type of foundation. So it's often about finding the right match between the two to give you a really flawless finish. Now, starting off with probably the most popular formulation for foundation products, liquids. As all things go, fingers can often be your best tool. But if you're looking for brushes, and if you do have a foundation that is very fluid, very light, almost runny on your skin, case in point, the Makeup Forever Face and Body Foundation, maybe the MAC Face and Body Foundation, things like that I find often work very well with buffing brushes. I have two here. This is the Sigma F80 Kabuki brush, a fabulous multitasker. I love this one very much, and I use it very frequently for my foundation application. A similar style with slightly longer bristles right here is the Everyday Minerals flat top buffing brush. This is actually from the Everyday Minerals website, and they recommend this for powder products, which I will touch on later, but I love using this to buff in very fluid, thin, liquid foundations. What I would not advise you guys doing is actually using a traditional synthetic foundation brush, the flat type right here, because I find that they really go streaky. Something like a very fluid foundation needs a lot more work to blend well into the skin. Once they set on the skin, they look great, but using something like this is too small. It doesn't give you the right sort of ability to push the product and work the product into the skin. It gives you streaks, you have to reblend it later, and it's just a lot more fuss than what it should be. So go for a flat top buffing brush. I think those are really great, or use your fingers. Now, if you are looking at something, say a thicker consistency liquid foundation, something possibly borderline to a cream foundation, or maybe using a mousse, say the Revlon Color Stay Whipped Foundation right here, or maybe you're using the MUA All-in-One Beauty Balm, which is a much thicker liquid that does not run on your hand. I would definitely advise using a damp foundation sponge like this, the little triangles. You want to run this under water, squeeze out majority of the liquid, and you're left with this. Compare it with the dry variation, you can see it's much bigger in size. And it's important because once you've saturated the sponge, it's less likely to absorb your foundation product, saving you money and extending, you know, your pot or your bottle of foundation. But also because of the moist sponge, it actually blends the product a lot better, especially if you're using a mousse foundation or again a much thicker, heavier consistency liquid foundation. Damp sponges work particularly well. Again, if you are looking for, say, a brush, I highly recommend this one, the Royal & Langnickel Silk Pro Super Foundation Brush C142 right here. Now this is a very serious foundation brush. Compared with the regular flat synthetic ones, you can see this one is much denser and also has longer bristles, and it's just, there's more stuff to it overall. So when you apply that thicker foundation onto your skin, you can really use this to work the product into your skin very nicely, and it holds its shape well. It just gives you much more flexibility in sort of function, so to speak. So love this one as well. And again, with any type of liquid products, buffing brushes have been my favorite overall. They just work regardless of being thin in consistency or slightly thicker. I find these ones to be great. So not a big fan of the flat synthetic if you are using liquid foundations. It was good for starters, but there are much better tools out there now for these types of products. Next up, if you are using something like a cream compact foundation, a stick foundation, a cream to powder, a cream to liquid, anything in a little container, I have here the Ben 9 Media Pro HD Sheer Foundation right here in a compact. Something like this works very well with a damp foundation sponge. Squeeze out the water so it's a little bit wet. It really helps to blend the product properly and pick up the right amount of product. What I would certainly not to use is a dry foundation sponge. These guys will pick up too much cream product. It will look cakey, it won't blend properly. So definitely a little bit of saturation with water right here makes a big difference when you're using a cream compact. If you're looking for brushes, I actually feel like the flat synthetic foundation brushes work very well with cream compacts. They blend nicely, and because these aren't as wet, they won't go streaky so easily, and they give you great coverage with these types of brushes. I have here an Eco Tools brush that you can buy from the drugstore, and I also have just one from a Costco set, really inexpensive, and they work very well. Now, if you are looking for other alternatives, something like the big super foundation brush C142 I just mentioned from Royal & Langnickel works well with thicker cream products or compact products. Again, it gives you the ability to really work it into your skin. A dual fiber brush like this one, the MAC 130 I have, is quite nice as well, especially if you're using something that is a bit more moisturizing, a moisturizing compact. These are great to go along with the stippling brushes. MAC makes them, a lot of other brands make these as well. The white bristles pick up the right amount of product, and the bottom natural bristles that you see help to blend the product evenly, and I love using these two together as well. Moving on to our third category, if you're using a mineral powder foundation or if you use a pressed compact powder foundation, I have one here from Guerlain. This is a pressed powder foundation. These are great if you are using them with a kabuki brush. I highly recommend these ones. I have this from Royal & Langnickel. It's a super big, super dense, super fluffy brush. These types of tools pick up the right amount of product, buffs it well into the skin, but also it gives you the ability to layer your powder products, whether you want a sheer wash of color or if you want to add a bit more, you can build this up with quite a lot of intensity, and it's really easy to use. Also, I think one product or one tool that is often undervalued when it comes to powders is the good old powder puff. Get yourself a big one, the big fluffy velvet powder puffs. I find these are great if you're choosing to set your liquid or cream makeup with a bit of powder, translucent powder, with a powder foundation for extra coverage. Whatever that you do, a powder puff really cannot be beat because this presses the powder onto your skin. You want to take the powder, dab it off a little bit on the back of your hand, and whatever's left over, press it into your face. This really meshes the makeup with your skin and make sure it stays there for a much longer period of time. I know a lot of people, and myself also, started off using these big, fat, fluffy powder brushes. These may be great, but from my experience and sort of learning through other makeup artists and whatnot, I have really grown to love smaller powder brushes for setting my makeup. The reason being, if you're using something so big and you're just kind of going all over your face, I feel it often disturbs concealer or foundation, especially underneath the eyes, that you may have meticulously applied to cover up a spot or a blemish. When you're just crazily running this around, you really kind of push the product around that was already on your face that you spent so much time applying. So now I no longer use these guys for all over powder. Instead, I choose to use something like a tapered powder brush. This one is the Royal & Langnickel Dome Powder Brush C130. It's tapered, as you can see, and it's very kind of long. So with something like this, I can actually target which areas I want to powder my face if I don't want to do my whole face, and I no longer just dust it all over. I actually like to press the brush over my skin or roll it around to powder my face. It's much more delicate and gives a much better finish, I feel, overall. So something like this is great. Or something like this, a smaller watercolor brush. Actually, if you go to the artist store, they often have painting brushes, which can be great for applying your powder products, especially if you're looking for natural haired ones. This one is a goat hair brush from Winsor & Newton. It is the 240. Right here, I use this one often as well because of the small size and the fact that I can just roll this onto my skin rather than just brushing it on really haphazardly, I would say. So this wraps up our little talk about the right tools to go with the right type of foundation and how they can give you a perfect flawless coverage if you find the right partners together. And I think the general rule of thumb to consider and to use as a guideline is to think about the consistency of your base product, be it something very fluid and watery or something denser and more emollient like a cream. They will likely require different tools to give you that perfect look when you apply it onto your skin. Also, one aspect that I feel like people don't talk about quite enough is the condition of your skin and what tools you should use at particular times. Say it's winter time, you're dry, you're flaky, you have dry patches on your face, or if you are breaking out during that time of the month, you're using medication, you're getting dry areas around your blemishes. At that time, don't use a buffing brush. When you're doing this buffing motion to blend your foundation, you're just going to pick up the dry flaky bits on your skin, which is what I assume you're trying to hide in the first place. So given that, maybe use a damp foundation sponge to lightly pat and smooth the foundation over your skin. Would work a lot better to minimize flaky areas and the way they look rather than buffing a product into your skin. And also, I personally prefer to apply a good moisturizer right before I apply my foundation. I like to have it a little bit moist on my skin. Therefore, whatever foundation I'm using, be it a liquid one or say a cream one, they just sit well and they blend nicely into my skin. And as my moisturizer sinks in, the foundation just stays nice and smooth and flawless. So that's a big tip that I've learned throughout the years. Last thing I want to touch on is the debate between natural bristles or synthetic bristles. Now, from a functional point of view, synthetic bristles are man-made, obviously. They have blunt cut ends, and natural bristles actually have tapered hairs to them. You can certainly do your entire brush collection with synthetic bristles. There's lots of options out there and many of them are incredibly soft and work well. However, I would say generally speaking, foundations that are liquid or just liquid products overall, I would use a synthetic bristle brush. They blend better, they don't sop up a lot of the liquid, so you're not wondering where did my foundation go, and they blend evenly over the skin quite nicely, working with liquid products or sometimes even cream products. For natural haired bristled brushes, I find them working a lot better with powder products. They pick up the right amount of product, they hold the product properly, and they don't just sort of blob it onto your face. It really dispenses a nice, smooth, sheer veil of powder over your skin, and I find that the natural bristle brushes definitely have a spot in my brush collection. So that's really up to you, but general rule of thumb, liquids go with synthetic and powders go with natural hair brushes for the most part. So this is hopefully a very informative video for you that maybe you'll pull out that foundation that didn't sit right on your skin and try it again with a different brush and see how you like that. If you have a favorite brush to use with your base products or favorite pairing that you've discovered, leave it down below in the comments box and share with me along with everybody else watching this video. If you have a question regarding any of the particular brushes I've shown, I would have all the information you need to know linked up in my corresponding blog post in the information bar. So take care of yourselves. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.